Finally, after almost 2 weeks of speculation, the FIA opted to reveal the results of the team's finances for 2021. Right before the Singapore Grand Prix a week ago, rumors leaked that Red Bull and Aston Martin are in breach of the budget cap of $145 million, which was implemented for the first time in 2021. Horner referred to these rumors as crazy and unfounded, but Mercedes and Ferrari were sure that Red Bull went over budget. Toto, Wolff, and Mattia Binotto openly questioned Red Bull's integrity, but Horner had a different opinion. In an interview with motorsport.com, he said, "It's a brand new set of really difficult rules, so how they're understood and enforced will unavoidably vary amongst the teams. And things will get cleaned up as the years go by," he said. "However, we are assured in our submission. There will always be rumors. I've heard there have been significant breaches, but I'm not aware of that." Following Horner's interview, different sources stated different amounts Red Bull breached the cap with. Whereas initially, Auto, Motor und Sport indicated a $5 million breach, other sources stated even a $10 million breach. Whereas Sky Sport later on mentioned just a $1 million breach. Although the FIA has their own set of penalties for breaching the cap, the situation is increasingly sensitive as of the nature of how last year's Drivers' Championship was determined. During the FIA press conference on Thursday, multiple drivers commented on the matter, including Hamilton. "It's not something I hadn't been thinking about, 2021, during this season. I think I don't know enough about it. Obviously, there's whispers of all these different things, so I can't say anything really. But what I can say is, I remember last year in Silverstone we had our last upgrade, and fortunately it was great and we could fight with it. But then we would see Red Bull every weekend or every other weekend bringing upgrades. They had, I think, at least 4 more upgrades from that point. I think it's important for all of us, plus all the people that are working, to have transparency throughout the organization. And accountability is something that we always have to hold true to. We've seen in previous years of the sport where things have been dealt with in the background." Hamilton got support from multiple drivers, as in the meantime, the teams had to wait till Monday the 10th of October to see whether the rumors were true. In an official statement by the FIA, they stated that all teams besides Aston Martin and Red Bull have been within the limits. Aston Martin was found guilty of a material breach, whereas Red Bull was found guilty of a minor overspending. But how much did Red Bull overspend? How did Red Bull spend the money? What does Red Bull think and what does Mercedes think about the situation? Let's find out. The FIA released a statement which confirmed the rumors from the last couple weeks. Red Bull has overspent the budget cap by less than 5% of the 2021 budget cap. In this case, it means that they spent less than $7.75 million extra on the development of their cars last season. Yet, the extra budget could have had a big impact on last year's drivers' results. Lewis Hamilton said in an interview with F1.com that if Mercedes had spent an additional $300,000, he probably would have won the championship in 2021. If we had spent an extra $300,000 on a new floor or adapted a wing, it would have changed the outcome of that championship naturally because we would have been in better competition in the next race if you add it on. So I hope that that's not the case. And I just hope that, I do believe Ben Sulayem and the FIA will do what is right with whatever they find out. So that's what we have to have faith in. But where Hamilton was aiming for a penalty, FIA's Vice President for Sport, Robert Reid, hinted last weekend that the saga will reach a low-key conclusion. He already hinted that the breaches would be minimal and too small for a severe punishment. In an interview with Autosport.com, he said, "I think the unfortunate thing for me is there has been so much speculation, and wild speculation. That has caused situations where potentially there has even been some reputational damage now, which is unfortunate. There has been too much talk. I am sure we will quickly move on to next year's analysis and we will see what comes. The penalty also depends on the extent of the minor breach. So how much did Red Bull overspend? The FIA has only mentioned a minor breach and purposely didn't put a number on it to prevent more rumors and speculation. According to the Daily Mail, the breach has only been $1 million, whereas the Telegraaf, a Dutch newspaper, mentioned $2 to $3 million. In an official statement, the FIA said, "The FIA Cost Cap Administration is currently determining the appropriate course of action to be taken under the financial regulations with respect to Aston Martin and Red Bull, and further information will be communicated in compliance with the regulations. Procedural breaches can result in financial penalties and/or minor sporting penalties in case of aggravating factors, as detailed in the financial regulation. Minor overspend breach, less than 5% cost cap, can result in financial penalties and/or minor sporting penalties." Where the FIA hints on a small punishment, Ferrari team boss Binotto was already pessimistic about the outcome of the report. He said, "If there is an ongoing discussion, we see that there are some unclear points. In the end, I think that something will come out, but we will have to see what. Personally, I am a bit pessimistic about the verdict of the federation. Clarity and transparency are a must by the FIA. The FIA is contesting, the team is defending." It is ironic that Binotto calls for transparency after the 2019 engine issue, where Ferrari was accused of burning additional oil to produce extra horsepowers. Instead of being open and transparent about the issue, Ferrari and the FIA made a pact that Ferrari had to comply with the engine regulations again, hence the big setback in performance in 2020. However, the budget cap breach also raises questions as to how much benefit Red Bull gained from it. According to Mercedes and Ferrari, an additional $5 million in development budget can be worth up to half a second per lap. So what did Red Bull spend their money on? According to the Dutch newspaper The Telegraph, Red Bull offers free lunch to their 1,000 employees all year round. The $1 to $2 million breach, according to the Dutch news site, is mainly built up of this daily free lunch and cost over absent staff, which is also part of the budget cap. But where many teams are asking for a severe punishment, Red Bull still finds it unfair. In an official statement on their social media accounts, Red Bull said, "We note the findings by the FIA of minor overspend breaches of the financial regulations with surprise and disappointment. Our 2021 submission was below the cost cap limit, so we need to carefully review the FIA's findings, as our belief remains that the relevant costs are under the 2021 cost cap amount. Despite the conjecture and positioning of others, there is of course a process under the regulations with the FIA which we will respectfully follow while we consider all the options available to us." Although found guilty, Red Bull still claims to be innocent due to the confusion about what should and what shouldn't be included in the $145 million budget cap of last year. But what does Mercedes think about the situation? George Russell agrees with his teammate and explained to motorsport.com, "I just know from our experience within Mercedes how hard the whole team has worked to stay within that cost cap. We know we can bring more performance to the table if we had more money to spend, and it's as simple as that. I trust in Mohammed Ben Sulayem and the FIA to bring an appropriate punishment for anyone who's found guilty of the charges accused. It should be quite straightforward, and you'd expect that the amount that's gone over should be the amount that's taken off for next year's budget, and probably a bit more on top of that as a punishment. But let's wait and see." The real question is whether or how much advantage the Austrian team had by spending more than allowed. It seems that it all comes down to whether some non-development related costs are part of the budget cap or not. The cost cap only relates to expenses that alters the car performance, excluding marketing costs, race driver fees, and the costs of the team's 3 highest paid employees. Engine supply deals are also not part of the cost cap. This is important to know as it would have seriously impacted the $145 million budget that was allowed last year. Next to the 2021 breach, multiple teams also suspect Red Bull from breaching the gap this year as well due to the development of the Austrian team this year. However, the FIA first have to deal with the current situation. What penalty would you give to a team that has a minor breach of the budget cap? Let me know in the comments section below.